welcome. I hope you enjoyed the opening vignette of our ice fishing adventure this last weekend. I'm afraid that I have been challenged to get any footage of any crafting. So I am here in person this time to talk a little bit about what I've been up to. I definitely want to give a big heartfelt thank you to the patrons of this podcast who invest financially, and to all of you who provide insight and feedback. Thank you so much. I love hearing from you. I do try to get back, but all the same, your kind words are so generous and invigorating and motivating. So thank you so much. Let's see. I did the 4-week Advent or turning of the year videos where we were kind of exploring a little bit of a different craft and medium versus fiber. And I have to say I've been working quite a bit on my journaling. I've been making journals. Does the word decoupage frighten you? Well, I have fallen in love with napkin images and working with Mod Podge, so stay tuned. And I think for me, as I move into the year, and I've kind of built some spirit work around some different words, imaging and images are becoming more and more inspirational and important to me. I do find that knitting, I love it. I love the texture. I love the tactile experience. But honestly, it is not me being a creative. Maybe if I choose my color, but it is participating in a collaborative experience with the designer. And I find that the journal making, the exploration of papers and paints and other kind of art paraphernalia to be really expressionist. And I've never really explored that. I didn't take an art class in high school. I did chorus, and partly I think I might have been intimidated by drawing, but I'm really enjoying this avenue of collage and imagery and pulling things together. So more of that in the future. Probably try to balance that out with the original intent of Fiber Trek, although paper is a fiber. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about what I've been working on and some treasures that have arrived. So I have been stuck on not stuck, but it's a slog right now through the pony mittens I'm making my niece. They're not hard. I think the problem is the chart is not repetitive, and so I have to reference the chart quite often. And now I'm working the chart in reverse, so I'm not reading it left to right, I'm reading it right to left. And sometimes for me, doing a bunch of spatial work in my head can be a challenge. So I'm making progress on that. I'm almost done the hand, and then I just need to do the thumb and pass these along. And I think that's kind of been what's inhibiting me from sitting down and picking up my knitting, because I do find the reference of the chart quite laborious. So once these are done, and I have some other bits and pieces off the needles, I'm feeling really excited to take a look at patterns, pull out different yarns, and cast some new things on, as well as pick up some older projects that have been languishing. So that would include working on my fox sweater from the Kofteboken book in the Hillesvåg. I've been kind of pining for that a little bit. I love the colors and I love that yarn so much. And the Bressa is going to take precedence over that. So speaking of the Bressa, Bresse, this is a pattern by Marie Wallen. If you've been tuning into the podcast for a while, you've been hearing about it for a while. So let's see what progress I've made. I have cast off the sleeve, and I have also recast off the hemline. So I'd done a traditional cast off, so knit and slipped over the knit stitch, and it was a little bit too tight. I could feel that tension in the bottom of it, and I decided to rip that out and redo it in a twisted German cast off. I have no idea what it is, but you knit, slip the stitch back onto the left needle, knit two together, slip them back off, slip knit back together. Sorry. Anyway, so that's done. And so I need to pick up and do the color work on the next sleeve, which is one of my goals today, so that I can take that with me when I travel south for work and have that available. So pony mittens for niece, Bressa sleeve, that's the main focus at the moment in the knitting realm. I'm knitting I'm knitting the Rauma mittens. I'm knitting the pony mittens out of the Rauma Phenol Garn, and I am knitting the Bresse out of the Jameson's colors that Marie Wallen picked herself. This was a kit that I picked up, and yeah, I'm looking forward to having this finished. It's really comfortable and fits very well. I ended up using a US 3, and I knit the smallest size based on my gauge. So I just kind of amended that in the yoke section when I realized that this is probably going to be a little bit too large in the size I've chosen. So I just shifted my increases. So I re-engineered this and I knit it top down. So that's the Bressa. So those are the two focused pieces we've got going on. I have uncovered a hat that I cast on a number of years ago. I lost it, and I had been thinking about it and looking for it, and it reappeared, and I'm so happy that it did. This is Norland by Sarah Birch. This was published in a Twist Collective edition. They were a digital magazine they were wonderful. I had a number of patterns from them. And I'm knitting this out of some Gotland from Barnswallow Farm in their fingering weight in just the light gray and the charcoal gray. So that's been on the go. Very exciting to pick that back up, and looking forward to getting a little bit of work on that. Have been on a hat kick. I'm wondering if it's just because I get to work with a variety of different colors and different patterns and charts. So again, looking forward to wrapping a couple of these other things up so I can refocus my attention. The last thing I wanted to highlight with knitting is this treasure I discovered through Bee Mandarines of Melody, Melody Hoffman. She is a designer. She also publishes YouTube videos. She has a Patreon account, which I am currently patroning, and which is a really wonderful way to interact with Melody and to get her patterns. So I would recommend checking out the work she's doing over on Patreon. And anyway, she kind of directed me to this particular producer. I picked this up off of Etsy. This is an unspun yarn, pre-yarn, kind of like the Plotolopi, if you're familiar with that consistency, or New Teden. 280 to 290 grams. And this is old sheep breeds from Switzerland and Germany. And she calls this her old barn. And this is by Esther Constance, and she is on Etsy. And I'll provide a link for you. I ordered 2 bales of this, and that would be about 600 grams. And I think that's enough to do a sweater. I'm kind of wondering what Melody's going to do with it, but she also has some other patterns which I think would lend themselves perfectly to this. So I am also looking forward to exploring and working with this particular yarn. One thing I really love about it is it has this kind of rosy brown spice overtone to it. So the color is really special, and I'm so grateful to have found her. I'm definitely not been as inspired by yarn lately. I think that for me, I've kind of come to rest and a little bit, and I have a lot of beautiful yarns to work with. And so if something is going to come into the house, I really want it to kind of spark an interest and a curiosity in place or old history or a story, and this definitely did for me. So if you're interested, I will leave the link, and you can check out this beautiful yarn for yourself. That being said, the last thing I thought I would take you on is a little trip over to my spinning wheel and talk a little bit about what I've been up to there. I had a bunch of Icelandic roving returned to me from the mill this summer, and it's been just kind of sitting there, and I hauled out my old knitting videos and old knitting books. I've been kind of nostalgic for like 20 years ago before Ravelry, and when I used to go to the knitting store and the yarn store and get a pattern and that was the pattern, and you'd buy your stuff to go with it. And so because of that, I have been revisiting a bunch of videos that I had, including hand spinning rare breed wools with Deb Robeson and Elizabeth Zimmerman, knitting round the year. I can't remember the name of her TV program, but I have all those videos. And so I've been revisiting that. I've been thinking a lot about one of my favorite knitting books, which is Folk Shawls, and wanting to knit something from that. So yeah, so I've just been kind of like hearkening back, and in doing so, I really wanted to spin up this Icelandic yarn. I've had Icelandics and worked with this breed for a very long time, and I wanted to just get that on my wheel. It was the first yarn, it was the first wool I ever spun, had returned from a mill and spun and knit into mittens and a variety of other things. So that nostalgia has kind of played out in getting me back at the wheel and back spinning. I'm spinning this at a rather heavier weight. I'd like to get it off the wheel in a 2-ply worsted and knit it up for my nephew, who really wants a sweater out of our Icelandic wool. So he has proven to me, in his own words, that he is able to wear the scratchy yarn, and he's been wearing Rauma. That kid is committed to his knitwear. He has his owlry hat, he has his sweater, and then I had given my mom a pair of mittens that I got in Norway as a gift, and he has taken those because he feels like they match his hat perfectly, and he needs hand knit woolen mittens. So I feel like he's ranked up and is in line for a hand spun Icelandic wool sweater, which I know he'll wear with gusto. So on that note, I think I'm going to wrap up here and start editing. I really appreciate the time that you invest in this project. I hope to divide some of the opportunity here between looking at wool fiber and paper fiber, so I'm sure there'll be a little bit more kind of exploration of the journaling craft forthcoming. And yeah, so I got a jelly plate coming to me for some printing and making papers, and who knows what will happen next. Again, thank you so much. I hope that you are well and in good spirits, and I will see you next time. Take care. Bye.